I bought my house at 23. Now I'm 27 and I'm not sure if it was the best decision. Let's talk about it. In this video, we'll talk about 7 different things you should consider before you purchase your first house. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Reni. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. I really do appreciate you for taking your time to watch this video. So today I wanted to have an open and honest conversation about the realities of home ownership. And this is all sparked from a discussion that I was having on Twitter yesterday, actually. So I'm recording this the day after. And I'll leave some of the tweets over here so you can see, but it got Twitter shook. A lot of people were coming for me and they asked me to do a video expanding on the points that I was making about home ownership. So I thought I would make this video. If you like this kind of content, please give a like. And I would love to have an open and honest discussion in the comment section below. So leave your comments relating to every single point that I mentioned in the comment section below. As many of you know, I purchased my house at the age of 23 back in 2020. I am 27 at this point, and I have thoughts about home ownership. I think that it is a great thing. I think that I am super glad that I bought my house at that time, no regrets, but I feel like there are a lot of misconceptions about home ownership and everyone thinks it is the right thing to do for them, when I actually don't think that every single person needs to or should aspire to purchase a home. So today I'm gonna go through some of the things that I think you should know before going into home ownership. I just want to give a disclaimer before I start because I know how y'all like to tussle that home ownership is not an inherently bad thing. I just feel like a lot of people go into the decision uninformed, thinking that it is a bed of roses. But if you talk to any homeowner, they will tell you very differently. So that's just a disclaimer before y'all come for me. First, let's start with the misconception that a lot of people have that owning their home is a investment. I highly disagree. And let me know that this is not for any home. If you have a rental property, sure, that can be an investment. Or if you have a principal residence that you rent a part of it out, sure, that can be an investment. But if you are talking about the home that you are living in, that you are paying every single bill yourself, that you are funding and putting cash into every single month, is it an investment? I would encourage you to ask yourself. And yes, it is an investment in maybe your peace of mind. Maybe it is an investment in, the security that you want for your family. Yes, we can talk about it that way. But if we're talking about monetary investment, which a lot of people talk about when they talk about their first home, I beg to differ. And let me tell you why. If I go on dictionary.com and I look at the definition of an investment, it says that investment is the investing of money or capital in order to gain profitable returns as interest, income, or appreciation in value. So where is that when we talk about owning a home as our principal residence? If I talk about interest, where is the interest that you're getting? I don't see that. If you're talking about income, no, zero. Because if I own my principal residence and I'm paying the mortgage, I'm paying the utilities, I'm paying for furniture, I'm paying for maintenance costs, I'm paying for all these things and I'm putting it into the property month over month, there is no positive cash flow going towards me. I'm actually just putting money into it every single month. And that is not an investment. For example, if I told you right now that I want you to buy a stock in my business and you're gonna own this one stock, but every single month you're gonna put in $500 into it, $500 into it, $500 into it, and I am not going to give you a return on it, I'm not gonna give you any cash every single month, would you consider that to be an investment? Probably not. Maybe we can go to the third part, appreciation, where you say you're going to be banking on the appreciation of that stock, right? The reality is that appreciation, again, is useless until you sell. You don't make any money until you sell. So I really do not think that your home is an investment, at least the one that you're living in. Again, I own a rental property. I would say that that is definitely an investment. However, the home that I choose to live in, not an investment in my humble opinion. And that brings me to my next point, the true cost of home ownership. If we're talking about home ownership and we're talking about the true costs that are put into this property, a lot of people just seem to overlook them when they talk about their home. So as I mentioned earlier, appreciation is useless unless you sell your property. So let's say, okay, you're gonna sell your property and you're like, yes, this is an investment. I have a property that I bought for $600,000. I'm now selling it 2 years later at $750,000. Yay, I just made $150,000 on my property. while this sounds good, while I hear you, while I get what you're saying, you're forgetting everything that you put into the property over the past 2 years. What about the mortgage costs? What about the interest that you've been paying on that mortgage? What about the utilities? What about the property taxes? All of these things are things that people just for some reason forget when they talk about purchasing their house and selling it at a profit. And now I'm not saying that you may not be profitable. Maybe you made $30,000 instead. But remember, the difference can be significant. You say you made $150,000, but did you actually make $150,000, or did you forget to take away everything that you put into this property? And if you are a homeowner right now, I will encourage you and I will urge you, I'm urging you to look at your mortgage statement for the year, okay? I looked at my mortgage statement and I realized that my principal has barely gone down over the past 3 years of owning it, because the majority of the money is going towards my interest payments, especially with interest rates right now, and especially having a variable mortgage. Barely anything is being paid on off of that principal. So if you really deep it, you're paying a lot towards interest, and you have to think of all those thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that you're paying towards interest. Is it really an investment? Is it really an investment? Are you really that profitable if you sell right now? The reality is that you're probably not. And a lot of people, you may even be at a loss at this point if you sell right now. So I would just encourage you to run the numbers and see if you're actually gonna make money and if it's actually been profitable for you. Hey friends, this is Reni from 3 Days Later, just popping in to say that I watched the video and I think I need to add a bit more context onto my first and second point, just talking about how I do not really think that home ownership for your primary residence is the investment that you think it is. So let's reframe my first statement a bit. My statement was that home ownership is not an investment if it's your principal residence. Let's reframe it to home ownership is not the investment that you think it is if it's your principal residence, okay? So let's reframe it to that. The reason that I'm saying this is simply because a lot of people say, oh, my home increased in value by X number of dollars. I made X number of dollars. I made this percentage. But I disagree, because you forgot all that you put into it. And if we're talking about buying a house 30 years ago, say our uncles, our aunties, our parents, they bought their houses in 1990, whatever, and they bought it for $100,000, and now their house is worth $1.2 million. Sure, those people likely made a sizable profit on their home, but I wasn't talking to those people, because mine was directed at homeowners today. I'm talking about if you are looking to get into the market today, you cannot use your auntie and your uncles and those people from the past, the boomers. You can't use their experience to say that you're gonna have that same experience here, because the housing market is not the same that it was back then, or even it's not the same that it was 2 years ago in COVID. Like, the housing market simply is not the same. If you are living in Canada, because that's who I'm talking to, that's my primary audience, those people, we are in a housing bubble, and we have been in a housing bubble for quite some time. And if you look at all of the stats and the data, it looks like it's about to pop. I'm not an economist. I don't know if it really is going to pop, but if you look at everything, it seems like it will pop. And I'm going to insert an excellent video below in my description box, so it will explain it. But if you look at all the signs, it looks like it's about to pop, right? So if you are an aspiring homeowner, you're looking to buy your house today, the average price, say the average price is $750,000 that you're trying to get in the Greater Toronto area. $750,000, and you are banking on the appreciation, it doesn't make sense to me, because the $750,000 that you buy it for, okay, you bought it for this, say it grows over the next 10 years to, like, let's say it grows by $500,000 to 1.2 mil, okay? So it's growing to 1.2 mil. Think of all the money you're putting into the property over the lifespan. That's the first thing. Think of all the holding costs. So that's the first thing. Think of all the holding costs. The second thing that I want you to think about is the appreciation, and when you sell it, where are you going to move that you can move to for a similar price? What I have been seeing is a lot of people are banking on their primary residence to grow in value and then sell, and then they'll move into another property. But if you move into another property, the property is going to be the same value, if not more, than what you just sold, right? So you're not really making much money unless you're going to sell your house for much more and then Japan to like some cheaper country. But if you are planning on staying in the same general surroundings, so I live in Mississauga and I sell my house and I want to still stay in Mississauga, it's going to be very hard. You may even be getting a smaller place for the same amount of money that you've sold for. So there is a housing bubble that I don't think anyone is recognizing. Once again, I am not saying that homeownership is a bad thing. I encourage homeownership. I think everyone should buy a home. And also, you don't need my permission to buy a home. Who am I? I just think that more people should run the numbers to see what amount of money they're actually making from the sale of their property, okay? Because you are selling your property and you're not calculating everything that went into it over the holding period. That's all I'm trying to say, but I think we should get back into the video, okay? The next thing that I'm gonna mention is the reality of maintenance and upkeep of your property. Go and ask any friend that you have that owns a property. Or if you do own a property, leave a comment below and tell me some of the costs that you have incurred over the time that you've owned your property. I will say that I was ignorant and I thought that you purchase a house, you put down the down payment, then you pay the mortgage every month. Maybe you pay your property taxes. That is all, but there's a lot more that can go into it. So you have your down payment, you have your mortgage cost, you have your property taxes, but you also have the upkeep and the maintenance of your property. If you have a furnace, servicing that furnace can be something that's expensive. Painting the walls of your house, if they're not looking too hot anymore, that's another expense. The shoveling of snow, if you're gonna pay someone to do it, or the time that you will be paying yourself, another thing to consider. Sometimes your washing machine just wants to break. Mine has broken. Thankfully it was under warranty, but sometimes it just wants to break. That's another cost you have to consider. I've heard people that have their foundation and they have issues with the foundation of their property and have had to put in tens of thousands of dollars to have it fixed. I've heard people have issues with the roof. A month after owning their home, the roof, it just wants to collapse. So these are the things that you really want to consider when purchasing your house. I also encourage you to just have an emergency fund specifically for your house, which is something that I had to do because I hate getting a call that, oh, this is broken with the house, I have to go fix it, and now I am not prepared and I have to, tap into money that I otherwise would not have tapped into. So start an emergency fund for your house if you are going to purchase a house. So remember, if you're purchasing a house, you can afford the down payment, you can afford the mortgage. Just remember that that is not all that you have to consider. The next thing that we're gonna talk about, and I know that you're probably thinking about it, is, okay, Reni, well, there's a debate of renting versus owning. And if I'm renting, I'm just throwing money away. And if I'm owning, at least I'm, building equity in this property. I hear you, but I hate when people say this. When you are renting, you are not throwing money away. You are paying for shelter, you are receiving shelter. That is it. There's no throwing money away. You are actually paying for something and getting it in return. And there's someone named Reni. He is an author that I highly suggest that you all read his book. I will leave a link to it in the description box. It is an excellent book. And he also has a TV show on Netflix that I think you should watch, but he was always talking about the realities of home ownership. And I think you would love this video because I'm basically preaching exactly what he says all the time. But he says this statement that can never leave my mind. He said that when you own a home, renting is the most that you will ever pay. So your rent each month that you're paying to your landlord, that is the most you'll ever pay. You have a fixed cost every month, you know exactly how much you're gonna pay. When it comes to owning a home, that is, your mortgage is the least you will ever pay. Take that in. I just want you to take that in. With renting, your rent is the most you will ever pay. With home ownership, your mortgage is the least you will ever pay. Just take that in, please, because it was mind-blowing when I thought of it. It makes sense logically, but it was just mind-blowing when I heard Reni say it, and I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. The reality is that renting gives you this stable payment month over month that you can just be paying, and you know that is the most you ever pay. You have the stability when it comes to rent versus when you have home ownership, there's a lot of variety that can occur. Now let's get into the next thing that I often hear people say when I tell them, okay, renting makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. They say, but you're not building any equity. At the end of the time that you've lived in the property, you have nothing to show for it. That's the thing I hear people saying. I want you to understand that equity is kind of an illusion, okay? I get it. And if you don't know what equity is, this is when you are owning more and more and more of your home. As the property value of your home increases, then the value that you own is increasing as well. So what this means in simple terms is that if I own a home and I go to the bank and I put down 20% of the value, and the bank will own the other 80%. Every single time I'm making my mortgage payments, I'm getting a little more and more and more of that equity, and until I'm able to buy it out whole, and then I have 100%. And the thing is that you can actually tap into this equity and get a loan. So my house has increased significantly in value. I bought it for about $345,000 in 2020. About now it's about $650,000, and I could technically get a loan for the part of the value that has increased in my property. I could get a loan and take that money out and refinance my property. But the reality is that equity is pointless unless you use it. It is an advanced strategy, and the majority of people just aren't doing that. So it's not something that you should rely on or use as a determinant of why you're going to purchase a house. The sixth thing I want to talk to you about is the opportunity cost that you have. Opportunity cost is when you put your money in one place and you are losing the opportunity of putting it in another place. So in this case, if I decide to put my money into a property, so say my $65,000 down payment, I put that into a property, I am losing the ability to put that in another investment such as the stock market, okay? So if I were to put my $65,000 into the stock market, I can say it grows at a rate of 10% a year and you hold it for 30 years versus the home that you're holding for the same period of time. You can make more money putting it in the stock market simply because you are not putting money into it every single month to hold it. Remember, if we go back to point number 2, I believe it was, there are costs associated with holding your property versus if you're holding these stocks, there are small fees associated, maybe the trading fees and stuff like that, but the fees nowhere compare to the fees that you can have from owning a home. So just remember that when you put your money into your home, it is essentially tied up there. It is not an investment, it is a forced savings account, I would say. And you have to account for all the money that you have that you are putting into this investment in order to have it grow. Of course, property prices have shot up like crazy over the past few years, but you also have to realize how much money you put into it every month and how much you could get if you put it into the stock market. So I would just encourage you to, run the numbers. And I will say that the stock market can be risky. However, there are safe ways to invest, and I have a whole investing playlist if you want to listen to it. The last thing that I want you to consider when it comes to home ownership and determining whether or not you want to own a home is your mobility. So you have limited mobility when you own a home. Picture this, you get a job offer in a brand new city and you're super excited for it. They're gonna pay you pretty well, but you own this home in this city and it would be very tiresome, burdensome, expensive process to move to the city and just leave the obligation that you have here, sell your property, etc., etc. This is what you have to consider when you do own a home. If you were just renting, you could just break your lease and move on and go and take this new job opportunity. But if you are owning a home, that is a lot harder to do. You could technically keep your home and rent it out to people if that's an option that you would like to pursue, but a lot of people don't want to be landlords. They want to own a home, and if you do own a home in this situation, it is typically hard to just up and move to a brand new city. So remember that you have limited mobility when it comes to owning your home. For some people, this isn't a problem. They want to stay in the city that they're in. They do not want to leave. I love it for you. But some of us, we have a little bit of wanderlust and we would like to live in different places, which I think this is where renting really, takes the cake. Renting is better in this situation because it gives you the flexibility to basically move around and do whatever you want and not have this huge burden on you. So in conclusion, I just want to reiterate that home ownership is not a bad thing. It is actually a great thing if it's something that you truly want, but I just want you to go into the process very informed, knowing exactly what you are getting yourself into. Think about the costs that are going into it. Think about the opportunity cost of your money going into a property. Think about the limited mobility that you may have, and just remember that owning your home is not an investment. I really want to hear about your take on this. If you want to buy a home, do you, boo. I'm not stopping you. just be informed before you make that decision. If you like this video and you want to see more videos from me, please leave a comment down below. I have not been feeling, up to making videos lately, but this kind of gingered me to get back into it. So let me know if you enjoyed this video by leaving a comment below, leaving a thumbs up, and sharing this video with a friend who may need to see if home ownership is right for them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.